You are a worthless woman. Stephanie is twice the wife you'll ever be. She has class, money, ambition. What do you have? A swollen belly and empty hands. He publicly beat his pregnant wife for his mistress in Lagos market. What this woman discovered in court will leave you speechless. Welcome, everyone. This is our story. Don't forget to like, share, and let us know in the comments where you're watching from. On a humid Lagos afternoon, Grace moved slowly through the crowded Yaba market. Her swollen ankles throbbed with each careful step. 7 months pregnant, exhausted, but determined. The sun blazed overhead, merciless, turning the market into an oven of humanity and commerce. Vendors shouted their wares in Yoruba and Pidgin. Hawkers pushed through crowds with goods balanced on their heads. The smell of stockfish and peppers hung thick in the air. Life pulsed with desperate, frantic energy. Grace clutched her small purse tighter. Just enough money inside for tonight's meal. Tonight was their 5th wedding anniversary. Despite Victor's recent coldness, despite the way he came home late smelling of expensive perfume that wasn't hers, despite the way his eyes barely met hers anymore, despite the strange bitter taste in her morning tea that left her nauseous for hours, Grace believed, still believed, that love could be rekindled, that patience and devotion would win him back. Her mother always said, "A good wife fights for her marriage, even when the battle seems lost." Her faded maternity gown clung to her in the afternoon heat. The fabric is worn thin from too many washes. Too many months of making do. The baby kicked. A strong kick that made her smile despite everything. She whispered promises to her unborn son. Promises about the loving family they'd be. About a father who would hold him, teach him, love him. She was shopping for Victor's favorite pepper soup. Stockfish and peppers. The meal that used to make him smile. Pull her close. Whisper that he was the luckiest man alive. The meal from their courtship days when he'd drive across Lagos just to taste her cooking. When he'd kiss her forehead and call her his queen. Those days felt like a lifetime ago. But Grace's hope refused to die. It clung to her like her faded dress. Stubborn. Faithful. Blind to the truth that everyone else could see. She moved through the crowd, careful not to bump her belly against the pressing bodies. Market women balanced trays on their heads. Children darted between legs. An old woman sold oranges from a wooden crate. A young man hawked phone chargers. Life continued its chaotic dance around her. Grace approached the fish section. Her eyes scanned for the best stockfish she could afford. Not the premium cuts. Those were beyond her now. Victor controlled the money. Gave her barely enough. But she'd make it work. She always made it work. Then she saw something that stopped her heart completely. Across the market square. Near the fabric stalls where Ankara prints blazed in reds and golds. A familiar figure. Victor. Grace's breath caught in her throat. Joy surged through her chest. Unexpected. Overwhelming. He came to the market, maybe to surprise her. Maybe to help her carry the shopping. Maybe he remembered their anniversary after all. Maybe today would be different. Maybe. But as her eyes focused, as the crowd parted slightly, as reality crashed through her hope like a hammer through glass, Victor wasn't alone. His arm draped possessively around a woman. A stunning woman in designer sunglasses that cost more than Grace's entire wardrobe. Expensive lace that shimmered in the afternoon sun. Her Brazilian hair cascaded down her back in perfect waves. Her Range Rover keys dangled from perfectly manicured fingers. Red nails. Sharp. Like claws. Stephanie. The new banker everyone whispered about. The one who drove through the market like she owned it. The one who treated market women like insects beneath her heels. The one whose name Victor had been mentioning more and more at dinner. Stephanie says this. Stephanie thinks that. Stephanie's bank is doing amazing things. Their body language screamed intimacy. Victor laughed. Loud. Unguarded. Genuine. The way he used to laugh with Grace. The way he hadn't laughed in months. Maybe years. His hand rested on Stephanie's waist. Familiar. Possessive. Comfortable. like it belonged there. Like it had always belonged there. Stephanie leaned into him, said something Grace couldn't hear. Victor threw his head back, laughed again, pulled her closer. Grace's small purse slipped slightly from her trembling fingers. The ingredients she'd carefully selected. The anniversary card she'd written that morning, hidden in her purse. 23 lines of love, of hope, of desperate prayer that they'd find their way back. Everything tilted. The market sounds faded to white noise. Her vision tunneled. Just Victor and Stephanie. Just betrayal made flesh. Just the death of everything she'd believed. Everything she'd fought for. Everything she'd endured. Grace's feet moved. Not from the decision. From instinct. From the part of her that still believed. That still hoped. That still thought maybe there was an explanation. Maybe it wasn't what it looked like. Maybe she was wrong. She approached slowly. Each step is heavy. Her pregnant belly leading. One hand cradles it protectively. The other clutches her purse. Her heart was hammering so loud, she thought everyone could hear it. 20 feet away. 15. 10. Victor still hadn't seen her. Too absorbed in Stephanie. Too absorbed in his new life. His escape. His fantasy that didn't include a pregnant wife and faded dresses and barely enough money for stockfish. Grace stopped 3 feet behind them. Her voice emerged. Quiet. Trembling. Breaking. Victor? He froze. His whole body went rigid. Like a child caught stealing. Like a man with secrets. Like a husband who'd been living a double life and just heard his two worlds collide. He turned slowly. His face went through a transformation Grace would never forget. Surprise. Then guilt. Then something worse. Something that made her blood run cold. Anger. Not embarrassment. Not shame. Anger. At her. For existing. For finding him. For ruining his moment. Grace. Her name came out flat. Cold. Like an inconvenience. What are you doing here? Before she could answer. Before she could process the ice in his voice. Stephanie turned. Removed her designer sunglasses with deliberate slowness. Studied Grace from head to toe. Her eyes traveling over the faded maternity gown. The worn slippers. The cheap purse. The swollen belly. Her lips curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. Something cruel. Something that enjoyed suffering. Victor. Stephanie's voice dripped with amusement. With malice. Is this the housemaid you told me about? Grace's world stopped spinning. Housemaid. The word hung in the humid air like poison. Like a slap. Like a dagger straight through whatever was left of her heart. She looks exactly like one, Stephanie continued. Her laughter cutting through the market noise. Sharp. Deliberate. Designed to wound. Grace's voice found itself. Small. Pleading. Desperate. Victor, please. I've been waiting at home. I wanted to cook for our... Don't. Victor's voice cut her off. Sharp. Vicious. A voice she'd never heard before. A voice that belonged to a stranger, wearing her husband's face. Don't you ever embarrass me in public again. His hand came up. Not to embrace her. Not to comfort her. To point. Accusatory. Aggressive. You are a worthless woman. The words exploded from him. Loud enough that vendors stopped mid-transaction. Loud enough that the market began to slow. To turn. To watch. Stephanie is twice the wife you'll ever be. She has class, money, ambition. What do you have? His eyes traveled over her pregnant belly with disgust. With contempt. With hatred for the child growing inside. His child. A swollen belly and empty hands. Then he moved. Not away from her. Toward her. Grace saw it coming. Saw his hand rising. Saw the rage in his face. But she couldn't move fast enough. Couldn't protect herself. Her pregnant belly throwing off her balance. His palm connected with her shoulder. Hard. Violent. Pushing her backward with force meant to hurt. Meant to humiliate. Meant to destroy. Grace stumbled. Her worn slippers sliding on the dusty ground. Her hands flew out. Desperate for balance. Desperate to protect her belly. Desperate not to fall. Not here.
Not now.
Not in front of everyone. Her small purse flew from her hands. Contents scattering. The stockfish she'd carefully selected. The peppers. The small bottle of palm oil. The anniversary card tumbling out, landing face up in the dust. 23 lines of love. Now trampled. Forgotten. Grace hit the ground hard. One hand protecting her belly. The other catching her weight. Pain shot through her wrist. Through her hip. But nothing compared to the pain in her chest. In her soul. In the place where love used to live. The market went silent. Absolutely silent. Dozens of witnesses frozen mid-motion. Vendors.
Shoppers.
Children. All staring. All seeing. All knowing they'd just witnessed something terrible. Something that would be whispered about for weeks. Stephanie stood above Grace. Her expensive heels inches from Grace's scattered tomatoes. With deliberate slowness. With theatrical cruelty. She lifted one foot. Brought it down hard on the tomatoes.
Crushing them.
Grinding them into the dust. Her laughter rang out.
Bright.
Triumphant. The sound of someone who'd won. Victor grabbed Stephanie's arm. Possessive. Protective. Led her away. Not looking back. Not checking if Grace was hurt. Not caring if his unborn child was okay. Their mocking laughter echoed through the market, fading as they disappeared into the crowd, leaving Grace collapsed on the dusty ground. One hand protecting her belly. The other clutches at nothing. At air. At the ghost of a marriage that never really existed. Tears streamed down her face. Hot. Shameful. Unstoppable. Around her, the market began to move again. Slowly. Uncomfortably. People looked away. Embarrassed.
Pitying.
Grateful it wasn't them. Grateful they weren't the pregnant woman crying in the dust while their husband walked away with another woman. Grace sat there, unable to move, unable to process, unable to understand how love had transformed into this, into public humiliation, into violence, into a man she no longer recognized. The baby kicked, strong, insistent, reminding her she wasn't alone, that she had someone to protect. Someone to fight for. But in that moment, sitting in the dust with crushed tomatoes and a trampled anniversary card, Grace felt more alone than she'd ever felt in her entire life.
She didn't know it yet.
Couldn't know it. But this moment, this exact moment of complete destruction, would be the beginning of everything. The beginning of truth. Of justice. Of a reckoning Victor and Stephanie would never see coming. Because sometimes God allows us to be broken completely, so He can rebuild us into something stronger. Something unbreakable. Something that will stand when the storm comes. And the storm was coming. Grace woke before dawn. The apartment is still dark. Victor's side of the bed is already cold. Empty. He'd stopped sleeping beside her weeks ago. Claimed the couch helped his back. But Grace knew better. She always knew better. She just chose not to see. Her swollen feet hit the floor. The baby kicked. A strong kick that made her wince and smile simultaneously. 7 months now.
A boy.
The ultrasound technician had confirmed it last month. Victor hadn't come to that appointment. Or the one before. Or the one before that. Work, he'd said. Always work. Grace moved through the small kitchen. Their apartment was modest. Nothing like the grand house Victor promised during courtship. Nothing like the life he'd painted with words that tasted like honey. But she'd learned to make do. To stretch money. To smile through disappointment. Today would be different. 5 years ago today, Victor had knelt in her mother's compound. His eyes are bright with promises. His voice trembled with what she believed was love. The memory played in her mind like a film worn thin from too many viewings. Grace, you are my queen. My everything. I will build us an empire. Give you the world. Love you until my last breath. His hands had been warm. His smile is genuine. Or had it been? Grace couldn't tell anymore. Couldn't separate the man she married from the stranger who came home late smelling of perfume that cost more than her weekly food allowance. She pulled out the ingredients, counted her money, Again, Victor controlled their finances. Gave her barely enough. I called it budgeting. It called it teaching her responsibility. But Grace knew what it really was.
Control.
Punishment for not being whatever he'd expected her to become. The pepper soup would take hours. She started early, grinding the peppers by hand, her wrist aching, the baby pressed against her ribs, making breathing difficult, making everything difficult. Her phone buzzed. A text from her sister. Happy anniversary, sis. Has Victor planned something special? Grace stared at the message. Her throat is tightening. She typed back quickly. Yes, something special. The lie came easily now. 5 years of lies. 5 years of pretending their marriage wasn't slowly dying. 5 years of telling family and friends that everything was fine.
Perfect. Blessed.
She thought about their courtship. Victor had pursued her relentlessly. Showed up at her university. Brought flowers. Wrote poetry. Made her feel like the most beautiful woman in Lagos. The most important person in any room. When did that change? Maybe after the traditional marriage. After her bride the price was paid. After she moved into his apartment and realized the business he claimed to own was actually a struggling venture capital scheme that produced more debt than income. Or maybe after she got pregnant. When her body began to change. When she couldn't fit into the tight dresses he liked. When exhaustion replaced the energy she used to have for his late-night demands. The signs had been there. She'd ignored them all. The expensive cologne that appeared in their bathroom. Brands she'd never bought. Scents she'd never smelled on him before. The phone calls he took outside. In the corridor. In the bathroom. Anywhere she couldn't hear. His voice dropped to whispers. His laughter is too familiar. Too intimate. Late nights. Coming home at 2 a.m. 3 a.m. Sometimes not at all. Business meetings, he'd say. Networking events. Client dinners. Grace stirred the pepper soup. Added the stockfish. The aroma filled their small kitchen.
Rich. Spicy. Perfect.
The same recipe that used to make Victor close his eyes in pleasure. Pull her close. Kiss her forehead. Call her his treasure. She remembered one night during their courtship. Victor had driven across Lagos in evening traffic. 2 hours each way. Just to taste her cooking. Just to see her smile. He'd eaten 3 bowls of pepper soup that night. Declared his love between mouthfuls. Promised her forever. This soup, he'd said, is proof that I've found my wife. The woman who will feed my soul as much as my body. Grace's eyes burned. She blinked rapidly. Tears wouldn't help. Crying wouldn't change anything. She had to believe. I had to hope. Had to fight for her marriage the way her mother taught her. A good wife never gives up. Never surrenders. You fight with love. With patience. With food that reminds him of home. The baby kicked again.
Harder this time.
Grace placed her hand on her belly. Whispered promises through the steam rising from the pot. Your father will love you. He's just lost right now. Confused. But he'll come back to us.
Today.
Our anniversary. He'll remember. He'll come home early. We'll eat together. He'll feel the baby kick. Everything will be okay. The words felt hollow. Even to her own ears. But Grace couldn't stop hoping. Couldn't stop believing. Because the moment she stopped, the moment she admitted the truth, her entire world would collapse. Her marriage would be over.
Her dreams would die.
And she'd be a single mother in Lagos. Pregnant. Alone. With nowhere to go. So she cooked. And hoped. And prayed. And pretended not to notice the strange bitter taste in her morning tea. The taste that left her nauseous for hours. The taste started appearing 3 months ago. Right around the time Victor's coldness turned to ice. She finished the soup. Covered it carefully. Changed into her best maternity dress. The faded yellow one that used to be bright. That used to make Victor smile. She applied lipstick with trembling hands. Tried to see herself through his eyes. I tried to be beautiful. Be enough. Be worthy of staying.
Grace checked the time.
11 a.m. She needed ingredients for the soup's final touches. fresh vegetables, maybe some fruit for dessert. She counted her money again. Just enough. Always just enough. She grabbed her small purse, stepped out into the Lagos heat. Her swollen ankles protested with each step, her heart clinging to hope that refused to die. Hope that would carry her through the afternoon, through the market, through the moment that would shatter everything she believed about love, about marriage, about the man she thought she knew. But she didn't know that yet. Couldn't see the future. Couldn't know that in a few hours, she'd be lying in the dust. Her husband's rage echoed through the Yaba market. Her anniversary card trampled. Her dreams crushed beneath designer heels. All she knew was hope. Stubborn, faithful, blind. And today, that hope would finally die. Grace's heart hammered against her ribs as she stood frozen behind Victor and Stephanie. The market noise faded to a dull roar. Her vision tunneled. Just them. Just betrayal made flesh. Victor? Her voice came out stronger this time. Louder. Cutting through their laughter. Victor spun around. His face cycled through emotions in seconds.
Shock. Guilt.
Then something that made Grace's blood freeze.
Rage.
Pure, undiluted rage. At her. For existing. For finding him. For ruining his perfect afternoon with his mistress. What are you doing here? His voice was ice. Each word is a blade. Grace's hand instinctively covered her belly. Protective. I was shopping. For our anniversary dinner. I wanted to surprise you with. Surprise me? Victor's laugh was cruel.
Sharp.
Nothing like the man she married. You want to surprise me? Looking like this? Embarrassing me in public. Stephanie removed her designer sunglasses with theatrical slowness. Her eyes traveled over Grace's faded maternity dress, her worn slippers. Her cheap purse was clutched in trembling hands. A smile curved her lips.
Predatory.
Enjoying every second of Grace's humiliation. Victor, darling. Stephanie's voice dripped with mock concern. Is this the housemaid you mentioned? The one who's been bothering you? The word landed like a physical blow. Housemaid. Grace felt something crack inside her chest. Something fundamental. Something that couldn't be repaired. She does look exactly like one, Stephanie continued, her laughter cutting through the afternoon heat. Though I must say, you're quite generous. Letting her wear your old wife's clothes. Old wife. The market began to slow around them. Vendors pausing mid-transaction. Shoppers turning to watch. The crowd sensing drama. Violence. Something they'd whisper about for weeks. Victor, please. Grace's voice broke. I don't understand. It's our anniversary. I've been cooking all morning. I just need a few more. Don't. Victor's hand came up. Aggressive. Pointing. Accusing. Don't you dare speak to me like we're equals. Like you have any right to question where I am or who I'm with. His voice rose. Loud enough that the entire market square could hear. Loud enough that dozens of witnesses stopped moving. Watching. Waiting. You are a worthless woman. Stephanie is twice the wife you'll ever be. She has class, money, ambition. What do you have? His eyes traveled to her pregnant belly with pure disgust, with hatred for the child growing inside. His child. Their son. A swollen belly and empty hands. Then he moved. Fast. Violent. His palm connected with her shoulder. The force is brutal. Meant to hurt. Meant to destroy. Grace stumbled backward, her worn slippers sliding on the dusty ground, her pregnant belly throwing off her balance. Her hands flew out desperately, one protecting her child, the other grasps at air. Her purse flew from her fingers, contents scattering across the market floor.
Stockfish. Peppers. Palm oil.
The anniversary card she'd written that morning tumbling out, landing face up in the dust. 23 lines of love now visible to strangers. To people who would never understand. Grace hit the ground hard. Pain exploded through her wrist, her hip, but nothing compared to the agony in her chest. In her soul, in the place where love used to live. The market went absolutely silent. Stephanie stood above her. Those expensive heels inches from Grace's face. With deliberate cruelty, she lifted one foot, brought it down hard on the scattered tomatoes,
Crushing them.
grinding them into the dust with her designer shoe. Her laughter rang out. Triumphant. Victorious. Victor grabbed Stephanie's arm. Possessive. Protective. They walked away, not looking back, not checking if Grace was hurt, not caring if their unborn child survived the fall. Their mocking laughter echoed through the silent market, fading into the crowd, leaving Grace collapsed on the dusty ground, one hand protecting her belly, the other clutches nothing. Around her, life slowly resumed. Uncomfortable, embarrassed,
Pitying. Grace sat there.
tears streaming down her face, unable to move, unable to process how love had transformed into this, into public humiliation, into violence, into a husband she no longer recognized. The baby kicked,
Strong.
reminding her she wasn't alone. But she'd never felt more alone in her entire life. Mrs. Florence had been selling vegetables in the Yaba market for 43 years. She'd seen everything. Fights over prices, stolen goods, police raids, lovers' quarrels that ended in broken noses and broken hearts. But she'd never seen anything like this. A pregnant woman beaten by her husband, in broad daylight, in front of hundreds of witnesses, while his mistress laughed and crushed tomatoes into the dust like they were the woman's dignity, like they were her dreams. Mrs. Florence moved before she realized her feet were moving.
Her old bones are protesting.
Her weathered hands reached for Grace, while others simply stared, while others whispered behind their hands, while others pulled out phones to record instead of help. "Come, my daughter." Her voice was soft, gentle. The first kindness Grace had heard in hours, maybe months. "Let me help you." Grace looked up, her eyes unfocused, tears cutting tracks through the dust on her face.
She tried to speak. Failed.
Tried again. "I'm fine. I just need to. I need to get home. Cook dinner. He'll be home for dinner." Mrs. Florence's heart broke. The woman was in shock. Deep shock.
Still believing.
Still hoping. Still clinging to the ghost of a marriage that had just died in front of the entire market. "You're not going anywhere alone," Mrs. Florence said firmly. She helped Grace to her feet, gathered the scattered items. The trampled anniversary card made her throat tighten. 23 lines of love ground into the dirt. She led Grace through the market, past staring faces, past whispered conversations, past the vegetable stalls and fabric shops, to a small clinic 2 streets away. A modest building with peeling paint but clean windows. Dr. Emmanuel's clinic. The doctor looked up from his desk as they entered. His kind eyes immediately assessed, taking in Grace's disheveled appearance, her torn dress, her swollen wrist, the dust covering her pregnant belly. "What happened?"
His voice was calm.
Professional. But his hands moved quickly, already preparing for the examination room. "Her husband," Mrs. Florence said quietly. "In the market." He pushed her. "She's 7 months pregnant." Dr. Emmanuel's jaw tightened. He'd seen this before. Too many times. Lagos men who thought their wives were property, who thought pregnancy made women vulnerable. Easy targets. He examined Grace carefully, checked the baby's heartbeat.
Strong. Steady.
Thank God.
Checked her wrist.
Sprained, not broken. Checked her vitals. Blood pressure elevated. Pulse racing. Shock setting in. "The baby is fine," he said gently. "You're fine. Physically. But I want to run some tests. Make sure everything is." "I need to go home," Grace interrupted. Her voice is distant. Disconnected. "I need to finish cooking. It's our anniversary. He'll be home soon. He'll be hungry." Dr. Emmanuel exchanged a look with Mrs. Florence. The woman was breaking, right in front of them. Her mind refused to accept what her body already knew. "Grace." He spoke her name firmly, making her focus. "When was the last time you felt well? Really well?" Grace blinked, confused. I don't know. I've been tired. Pregnancy is tiring. Beyond pregnancy tired. Have you had unusual nausea? Dizziness? Strange pains? Something flickered in Grace's eyes. Recognition.
Fear.
My morning tea, she whispered. It tastes bitter. For months now. I thought maybe the water was bad. Maybe I was just sensitive because of the baby. Dr. Emmanuel's blood ran cold. Years of medical practice had taught him to trust his instincts. And every instinct was screaming. I need to run additional blood tests, he said carefully. It may be nothing. But I want to be certain. The tests took 3 hours. Grace sat in the waiting room, staring at nothing. Mrs. Florence beside her, holding her hand, praying quietly. When Dr. Emmanuel finally called them into his office, his face was pale. His hands trembled slightly as he held the test results. Grace. He sat down heavily. Mrs. Florence. What I'm about to tell you is difficult. Grace's hand moved to her belly. Protective. Instinctive. There are traces of poison in your system. The words fell like stones into still water. Slow-acting. Carefully measured. Designed to cause miscarriage without obvious symptoms. Without raising suspicion. The room tilted. Grace heard the words. Understood them. But I couldn't process them. Couldn't connect them to reality. To her reality. To Victor bringing her morning tea, with a smile. With concern for her health. With gentle words about taking care of herself and the baby.
No.
The word came out broken. No, that's not. Victor wouldn't. He's the father. He's my husband. He wouldn't. The poisoning started approximately 3 months ago, Dr. Emmanuel continued. His voice is gentle but firm. Based on the levels in your blood. The accumulation. Someone has been poisoning you consistently, methodically, with intent to kill your child. Possibly to kill you. Mrs. Florence gasped. Her hand flew to her mouth. Grace sat frozen, her world shattering for the second time that day. The market humiliation had broken her heart. This broke something deeper. Something in her soul. In her ability to trust. To believe.
To hope.
Victor. Her husband. The father of her child. The man she cooked for. Prayed for. Loved despite everything. Had been poisoning her. Trying to murder their son. The room spun. Grace's vision darkened at the edges. She felt herself falling. Felt strong hands catching her. Felt the world dissolving into darkness. And in that darkness, one thought echoed. He never loved me. He never loved us. This was always going to end in death. Dr. Emmanuel caught Grace before she hit the floor. His medical training is taking over. He laid her gently on the examination table. Checked her pulse. Her breathing. The baby's heartbeat is still strong despite the mother's trauma. Mrs. Florence hovered nearby. Her weathered face creased with worry. With rage at what men did to women. At what this particular man had done to this particular woman. Grace's eyes fluttered open minutes later. The reality crashing back immediately. No mercy. No gentle awakening. Just the brutal truth staring her in the face. I need to document everything, Dr. Emmanuel said quietly. Every detail. The poisoning. The assault. All of it. Grace turned her head away. What's the point? Who would believe me? Victor he's respected. He has connections. You're a victim of attempted murder, Dr. Emmanuel interrupted.
His voice firm.
And I have a friend who will take this very seriously. He pulled out his phone. Dialed a number he hadn't called in months. Years maybe. But some friendships transcended time. Transcended distance. Adewale, he said when the call connected. It's Emmanuel. From secondary school. I need your help. It's urgent. Police Commissioner Adewale arrived at the clinic within an hour. A tall man with graying temples and eyes that had seen too much corruption. Too much injustice. Too much of Lagos's ugly underbelly. He listened to Grace's story. Took notes. His expression grows darker with each detail. The market assault. The poisoning. The systematic degradation of a pregnant woman by her husband and his mistress. We'll need to move carefully, he said finally. If your husband suspects you know about the poisoning, you're in immediate danger. Real danger. Grace's hand moved to her belly. What do I do? You disappear, Mrs. Florence said firmly. You come stay with me. My compound is small but safe. No one knows you there. I'll arrange surveillance, Commissioner Adewale added. On your husband. On this Stephanie woman. We'll watch.
Wait.
Document everything. Within 48 hours, the surveillance was in place. Grace knew nothing about the cameras, the recording devices, the undercover officers who followed Victor's every move. She stayed hidden in Mrs. Florence's modest compound. 3 small rooms behind the market. Concrete floors. Tin roof. Nothing like the apartment she'd shared with Victor. But safer. Infinitely safer. The surveillance team worked quickly. Efficiently. What they discovered made Commissioner Adewale's blood boil. Stephanie wasn't Stephanie. Her real name was Ada Akoli. Wanted in Enugu and Port Harcourt. 3 previous relationships. 3 dead wives under suspicious circumstances. 3 estates transferred through forged documents to Ada and her grieving partners. The pattern was identical every time. Seduce a married man. Convincing to him his wife was worthless. Help him poison her slowly. Stage an accident or miscarriage. Comfort him through his grief. Marry him quickly. Then systematically drain his accounts before moving to the next victim. Victor was victim number 4. Except he wasn't really a victim. He was a willing participant. An eager accomplice. The recordings proved it. Day 3 of surveillance. Victor and Stephanie in her luxury apartment. Champagne glasses catching the afternoon light. Their voices clear through the hidden microphones. How much longer? Victor's voice. Impatient.
Greedy.
Patience, darling. Stephanie's laugh.
Cold. Calculating.
The poison needs to work slowly. Natural miscarriage. No suspicion. Then a tragic accident for the grieving mother.
So sad.
So unexpected. The property will finally be mine once she's gone. Victor's words made the surveillance team exchange glances. What property? Your simpleton wife never even knew about her father's estate, did she? Stephanie's voice dripped with amusement. All those years. That land in Lekki is worth nearly 200 million naira. And she had no idea Daddy left it to her. Victor laughed. Actually laughed. Grace can barely read official documents. She signed everything I put in front of her. Power of attorney. Transfer papers. All of it. She thought she was signing lease agreements for the apartment. Brilliant, Stephanie purred. Once she's dead, the transfer becomes permanent. No contested wills. No investigations. Just a grieving widower inheriting his late wife's assets. Then we can finally live properly, Victor continued. Sell the land. Move to Dubai. Start fresh. About that, something in Stephanie's voice changed. Something the surveillance team caught, but Victor missed completely. I've been thinking about Dubai. You have such expensive tastes. More recordings came. Days of them. Weeks of them. Each conversation is more damning than the last. The poisoning schedule. Detailed. Clinical. How much to give. When to give it. How to disguise it in morning tea. In evening soup. In vitamins he insisted she take for the baby's health. The fake concern. Victor practicing sympathy in the mirror. Rehearsing worried husband. Preparing for the performance of grief when Grace and the baby finally died. The timeline. 6 more weeks. Then increase the dosage. Force a miscarriage. Then a tragic fall down the apartment stairs. Or maybe a gas leak while she slept. They debated methods like people debating dinner options. But there was something else in the recordings. Something that made Commissioner Adewale replay the files multiple times. Something that changed everything. Stephanie was recording Victor too. Secret recordings on her phone. Backup files on her laptop. Every incriminating word Victor spoke. Every detail about the poisoning. Every admission of fraud. Every plan for murder. Insurance. Leverage. Blackmail material. Because Stephanie, Ada, had never planned to go to Dubai with Victor. She'd planned to bleed him dry, then threaten exposure unless he paid.
And paid.
And paid. Victor wasn't her partner. He was her next victim. Just like Grace. Just like the 3 dead wives before. Just like every man stupid enough to think a woman like Ada actually loved them. The investigation team assembled everything. Every recording. Every forged document. Every connection to the previous deaths. Every piece of evidence that would bury Victor and Stephanie for decades. Commissioner Adewale reviewed the files one final time. His face grim. "They have no idea what's coming," he said quietly. No idea at all. In Mrs. Florence's compound, Grace lay on a thin mattress. Her hand on her belly, feeling her son kick.
Strong. Alive.
Fighting to survive despite his father's poison. She didn't know about the investigation. Didn't know about the recordings. Didn't know that justice was assembling itself piece by piece. Building a case that would shake Lagos. She only knew that her husband wanted her dead. That the man she loved was trying to murder their child. And that knowledge was almost enough to kill her anyway. 3 weeks later, the pain started. Grace woke in Mrs. Florence's small back room. Moonlight streaming through the window. Her belly contracting. Hard.
Urgent.
Too early. Far too early. "Mrs. Florence," she gasped. Her voice is barely above a whisper. "Something's wrong." The older woman was beside her in seconds. One hand on Grace's forehead. The other reached for her phone. Calling Dr. Emmanuel. No time for hospitals. No time for questions. No time for anything but bringing this baby safely into a world that had already tried to kill him. Dr. Emmanuel arrived within 20 minutes. His medical bag in hand. His face was calm despite the emergency. He delivered babies in worse conditions. In villages without electricity. In homes without running water. This he could handle. "Grace, listen to me." His voice was steady. Authoritative. "Your body is ready. The baby is ready. We're going to do this together." The labor lasted 6 hours. 6 hours of pain that felt like penance. Like purification. Like every betrayal, every lie, every moment of poison leaving her body through fire. Mrs. Florence held her hand. Whispered prayers. Wiped sweat from her forehead. Became the mother Grace's own mother couldn't be. The witness to a miracle born from tragedy. At 4:47 a.m., as Lagos began its slow awakening, a baby's cry pierced the darkness. Strong. Healthy.
Alive.
Dr. Emmanuel lifted the infant. Wrapped him in clean blankets Mrs. Florence had boiled and dried. Placed him in Grace's trembling arms. "A boy," he said softly. "Perfect. Beautiful. A fighter." Grace stared at her son. Her vision blurred with tears. This should have been the happiest moment of her life. Should have been shared with a loving husband. Should have been celebrated with family and friends and joy. Instead, she was hiding. Her child's father was plotting her murder. The man who should be cutting the umbilical cord had been cutting her life short one poison cup at a time. "Emmanuel," she whispered, naming her son after the man who saved both their lives. After the doctor, who saw what others missed. Who believed when belief was dangerous. "His name is Emmanuel." Dr. Emmanuel's eyes glistened. He nodded, unable to speak. For 3 days, Grace remained in Mrs. Florence's compound, nursing her son, watching him sleep, memorizing every detail of his face. His tiny fingers, his soft breathing, the way he trusted her completely, depended on her absolutely. On the 4th day, Dr. Emmanuel made a call. Victor's phone rang at 2 p.m. He was in Stephanie's apartment, planning their wedding, selecting champagne varieties, debating between Mauritius and Seychelles for the honeymoon. "Hello." Victor's voice was distracted, annoyed at the interruption. "Mr. Okonkwo, this is Dr. Emmanuel. From the clinic near Yaba Market." A pause. Heavy. Deliberate. "I'm calling your wife." Victor sat up straighter, his heart racing. Finally. Finally it worked. The poison.
The plan.
Everything was coming together. What happened? He tried to sound concerned, worried. The devoted husband. There were complications. Dr. Emmanuel's voice was professionally somber. Practiced.
Perfect.
The baby? I'm sorry, Mr. Okonkwo. The baby didn't make it. Silence on the line. Victor's hand covered the phone, but the surveillance team caught it anyway. Caught the smile spreading across his face. The thumbs up he gave Stephanie. The silent celebration. That's... Victor cleared his throat, remembering to sound devastated. That's tragic. And Grace? She's fled. Grief-stricken. I tried to counsel her, but she ran. I don't know where she went. I thought you should know. More silence. Victor processing. The baby is dead. Grace missing. Everything falling into place is even better than planned. Thank you for calling, Victor said slowly. If you hear from her, please let me know. I'm devastated. He hung up. The phone barely hit the table before he grabbed Stephanie, lifted her, spun her around. Their laughter echoed through the luxury apartment. It worked. Victor's voice was pure joy, pure relief. The baby's gone. Grace is gone. It's over. It's finally over. Stephanie popped champagne, the cork hitting the ceiling, expensive bubbles flowing into crystal glasses. To us, she said. Her smile is predatory, victorious, to new beginnings, to the life we deserve. They clinked glasses, drank deeply, made love on the leather couch, celebrated the death of an innocent child, the disappearance of a woman who'd loved Victor with everything she had. We should move the wedding up, Stephanie suggested later, her head on Victor's chest. Her fingers are tracing patterns on his skin. Why wait a month? Let's do it in 2 weeks. I want to be your wife. I want everyone to see us together. Officially. Victor kissed her forehead. 2 weeks. Perfect. I'll call the hotel tomorrow. The Grand Imperial. Spare no expense. This is our moment. Our moment, Stephanie echoed. But her eyes held secrets. Plans within plans. The recordings on her phone that would destroy Victor the moment he became inconvenient. The backup drives are hidden in 3 separate locations. Insurance. Always insurance. She'd done this before. 3 times before. The pattern was simple. Make them fall in love. Make them commit murder. Make them marry you. Then make them pay.
And pay. And pay.
Victor was just another mark. Another stepping stone. Another fool who thought he was the predator when he was really the prey. But Victor knew none of this. Suspected nothing. He lay there planning his future. Their future. The life they'd build on Grace's grave. On his son's tiny corpse. On lies and poison and murder. At Mrs. Florence's compound, Grace held Emmanuel close. Felt his heartbeat against her chest.
Strong. Steady.
Proof that love could survive anything. That innocence could triumph over evil. That God could bring life from death. She didn't know about Victor's celebration. Didn't know he thought she was broken. Disappeared. Destroyed. She only knew her son was alive. Breathing. Safe in her arms. And somewhere deep inside, beneath the grief and trauma and betrayal, something new was growing. Not hope. Not anymore. Hope had died in the market dust. This was something harder. Something stronger. Something that would carry her through what was coming. This was resolved. The storm Victor and Stephanie had created was about to turn around. About to crash back on them with biblical fury. They just didn't know it yet. But they would. Very soon. They would. Lagos lived for weddings. The bigger, the better. The more extravagant. The more memorable. Weddings weren't just ceremonies. They were statements. Declarations of wealth. Of status. Of having arrived. Victor and Stephanie's wedding was going to be legendary. The Grand Imperial Hotel Ballroom. The most expensive venue in Victoria Island. Crystal chandeliers imported from Italy. Marble floors that gleamed like mirrors. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Atlantic Ocean. 300 guests. A-list celebrities. Politicians. Business magnates. Society photographers positioned at every angle. The wedding would trend for weeks, maybe months. Stephanie's dress alone costs 5 million Nigerian nairas.
Custom designed.
Hand-beaded. She posted photos on Instagram daily. The bodice. The train. The veil stretched 12 feet. Each post garnered thousands of likes. Hundreds of comments praising her taste. Her beauty. Her fairy tale romance. From heartbreak to happiness, her captions read, "God's timing is perfect." When one door closes, another opens to paradise. The comments flooded in. "You deserve this, queen. True love always wins. Can't wait to see the wedding." Hashtag couple goals. Victor gave interviews to wedding magazines, lifestyle bloggers, anyone who would listen to his story of finding real love after settling for less. "My first marriage was a mistake," he told a popular Lagos magazine. "I married potential instead of reality. But Stephanie, she's everything. Accomplished. Ambitious. Beautiful inside and out. This is what a true partnership looks like." The interviewer ate it up. Romantic redemption. Second chances. A man brave enough to admit his first choice was wrong and start over. Nobody mentioned Grace. Nobody asked about the pregnant wife who'd disappeared. Nobody cared about the woman erased from the narrative like she'd never existed. In the Yaba market, Mrs. Florence watched the Instagram posts from her small phone. Each photo makes her blood pressure rise. Each caption twists the knife deeper. She contacted a blogger, a popular one known for exposing Lagos's dirty secrets, for giving voice to the voiceless, for taking down the powerful when they thought themselves untouchable. She shared parts of Grace's story, anonymously,
Carefully.
just enough to plant seeds. The blogger started posting, cryptic at first. "When your fairy tale wedding is built on another woman's grave, hashtag justice is coming. That expensive wedding dress can't cover up murder. Hashtag watch this space. Lagos couples celebrating love while hiding bodies.
Stay tuned.
Hashtag justice for Grace." The hashtag began circulating. Hashtag justice for Grace. Nobody knew who Grace was yet, but Lagos loved the mystery, loved scandal, loved watching the mighty fall. Speculation ran wild in comment sections. Who is Grace? What bodies? Which Lagos couple? Drop names. The blogger held back, waiting, building anticipation. The full story would drop at exactly the right moment, not before. Timing was everything. At police headquarters, Commissioner Adewale assembled his team, spread the evidence across the conference table. Recordings, documents,
Testimonies.
everything organized, everything airtight. "We move on the wedding day," he said. His voice leaves no room for argument. Maximum visibility, maximum impact. They want a public celebration. We'll give them public reckoning. His second-in-command raised an eyebrow. "That's dramatic, sir." They tried to murder a pregnant woman in broad daylight, in a crowded market. They deserve drama. The team nodded. Justice was coming. Not quiet. Not behind closed doors. Out in the open. Where everyone could see. Where no one could deny. Where Lagos would witness the consequences of thinking money and status meant you could get away with anything. The wedding day arrived. December 14th. Perfect weather. Clear skies. Gentle breeze off the ocean. God himself seemed to be blessing the occasion. The Grand Imperial's ballroom transformed into something from a fantasy. White roses everywhere. Thousands of them. The scent is overwhelming. Intoxicating. Gold accents catching the afternoon light. A custom stage for the couple. A professional DJ. A full band. Catering by Lagos's most exclusive chef. Guests arrived in the designer Asoebi fabric in emerald green and gold. The colors Victor and Stephanie had chosen. Traditional attire worth more than most Nigerians earned in a year. Selfies. Videos. Instagram stories. Everyone documenting. Everyone performing. Everyone pretending this was normal. That weddings always cost 50 million naira. That love always looked like this. Stephanie arrived in a white Rolls-Royce, rented for the day at enormous expense. Her bridesmaids fussed over her train, adjusted her veil, reapplied her makeup for the 10th time. She looked perfect. Absolutely perfect. A bride from a magazine cover. From a fantasy. From a lie so beautiful nobody wanted to question it. Victor stood at the altar. Custom Tom Ford tuxedo. Diamond cufflinks. Hair perfectly styled. His smile is wide. Genuine. The smile of a man who'd won. Who'd gotten everything he wanted. Who'd destroyed everyone in his path and suffered no consequences. His groomsmen stood beside him. Friends who knew nothing. Who believed the story. Who thought they were witnessing true love. The music swelled. Pachelbel's canon. Classic. Romantic. Predictable. Stephanie began her walk down the aisle. Every step is calculated. Every smile practiced. 300 phones rose, capturing every angle, every moment, every second of her triumph. She reached the altar, took Victor's hand. Their eyes met. Both are seeing the same thing. Victory. Success. Freedom. A future built on someone else's grave. The pastor cleared his throat, opened his Bible, began the ceremony that would bind them legally, spiritually,
Permanently.
Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today. His voice carried through the ballroom, through the expensive sound system, through the phones recording every word, to join this man and this woman in holy matrimony. Victor squeezed Stephanie's hand. She squeezed back, both remembering. Grace in the dust. The baby they thought was dead. The poison. The plan. Everything that brought them to this moment. Marriage is not to be entered into lightly, the pastor continued, but reverently, joyfully, in the love of God. Stephanie's smile widened. Joyfully.
Yes.
She was joyful. Joyful that another stupid man had fallen for her act, had committed murder for her, had given her everything she needed to destroy him when the time came. If anyone has objections to this union, the pastor's voice rang out clearly. Speak now or forever hold your peace. Silence. Complete silence. 300 people holding their breath, waiting for the formality to pass, for the ceremony to continue. The massive ballroom doors burst open. The sound echoed like thunder, like judgment, like the hammer of God himself falling on the wicked. 12 armed police officers stormed in, led by Commissioner Adewale, his uniform pressed sharp, his face granite. His presence fills the room like an avenging angel. The music cut. Abruptly. Violently. The DJ's hands are frozen on the controls.
Gasps.
Screams. Phones swinging toward the doors. Toward the officers. Toward the chaos erupting in real time. Commissioner Adewale's voice boomed through the ballroom. Victor Okonkwo. Stephanie Ada Akoli. You are under arrest for conspiracy to murder, attempted murder, fraud, forgery, and poisoning with intent to kill. Victor's face is drained of color. Every drop of blood leaves, turning his skin gray, ashen, like a corpse already. His mouth opened.
Closed.
Opened again. No words coming. Just the silent working of a man watching his entire world collapse in real time. Stephanie's reaction was different. Immediate. Visceral. Survival instinct kicking in. She gathered her elaborate gown in both hands. Her 5 million Nigerian nairas dress is bunching around her knees. Those designer stilettos that cost more than most people's rent click frantically against marble.
She ran.
Straight toward the side exit. Her veil streaming behind her like a white flag of surrender she refused to wave. Her bridesmaids scattered. Guests jumped back, creating a path through shock and confusion. Stop her. Commissioner Adewale's command sharp. Authoritative. 2 female officers moved with practiced efficiency. They'd done this before. Tackled fleeing suspects in worse circumstances. In darker places. Stephanie made it 15 feet before they brought her down. She screamed. High-pitched. Furious. The sound of someone is unaccustomed to consequences. Unaccustomed to losing. Do you know who I am? Do you know who my connections are? I'll have your jobs. I'll have your heads. You can't do this to me. The officers weren't impressed. They'd heard it all before.
Threats. Bribes.
Claims of powerful friends. It meant nothing. Not here. Not today. Not with evidence this solid. They cuffed her wrists behind her back. Her wedding dress tearing. Beading scattering across the floor like fallen stars. Like shattered dreams. Like everything she'd built crumbling to dust. At the altar, Victor finally found movement. He stepped backward.
Stumbling.
His groomsmen are confused. Reaching for him. Trying to understand what was happening. Victor, what's going on? His best man's voice is uncertain. Afraid of the answer. But Victor couldn't respond. Couldn't explain. Because explaining meant confessing. Meant admitting everything. Meant destroying himself with his own words. Commissioner Adewale approached slowly. Deliberately. Each step measured. Letting Victor watch justice coming. Letting him feel the weight of his crimes catching up. You have the right to remain silent, he began. His voice carried through the silent ballroom. Through 300 witnesses. Through dozens of phones now streaming live to Instagram. To Twitter. To Facebook. Though I doubt that will help you. He nodded to his officers. They moved forward. Surrounded Victor. Cut off every escape route. Victor's legs gave out. He dropped to his knees. Right there at the altar. Where he'd stood moments ago believing he'd won. Believing he was untouchable. Believing Grace was gone and forgotten, and his future was secure. Please, he whispered. His voice is breaking. Please, there's been a mistake. I don't know what you think I did, but we have recordings. Commissioner Adewale interrupted. Cold. Clinical. Every conversation. Every plan. Every dose of poison you fed your pregnant wife. Every lie you told. Every moment you celebrated what you thought was your son's death. The ballroom erupted.
Gasps. Shouts.
Phones raised higher. Everyone is trying to capture the moment. The confession. The breakdown. The fall from grace happening in real time. Your son's death. Someone in the crowd. A woman's voice. Horrified. He murdered his own child? The whispers spread like wildfire.
Through the rows of guests. Through the wedding party.
Through everyone who'd come to celebrate what they thought was love. He tried to murder his wife. Another voice. His pregnant wife. For what? For her? For money. For property. The story is spreading. Mutating. Growing with each retelling, even though the full truth hadn't been revealed yet. Victor's shoulders shook.
Sobs racking his body.
Not from remorse. From being caught. From watching everything he'd killed for dissolving in front of 300 witnesses. The officers pulled him to his feet.
Cuffed him.
His expensive tuxedo suddenly looks cheap. Costume. A disguise that no longer worked. Across the room, Stephanie had stopped screaming. Had gone eerily quiet. Her mind is working. Calculating. Already planning her defense. Already figuring out how to spin this. How to blame Victor. How to play victim. Commissioner Adewale addressed the crowd. His voice was amplified by the wedding's expensive sound system, echoing off crystal chandeliers, reaching every corner of the ballroom. For those recordings, and I see most of you are, here are the facts. Victor Okonkwo systematically poisoned his pregnant wife, Grace, for 3 months. His goal was to cause miscarriage and eventually murder her to steal property she inherited from her father. Property worth nearly 200 million naira that she didn't even know she owned. The crowd's reaction was immediate. Outrage. Horror. Disbelief warring with the evidence of their own eyes. His accomplice, Stephanie Ada Akoli, is wanted in 2 other states for similar crimes. 3 previous relationships. 3 dead wives. 3 stolen estates. Victor was intended to be victim number 4. After she helped him murder Grace, Stephanie planned to blackmail him. We have her recordings proving this. Someone laughed. A bitter, shocked sound. The irony is too perfect. Too poetic. Victor was killed for a woman who was planning to destroy him. Betrayed by his betrayer. Poisoned by his partner in poison. The hashtag some of you have seen, hashtag Justice for Grace, was started by people who witnessed Victor assault his wife in the Yaba market 1 month ago, who watched him push his pregnant wife to the ground while his mistress laughed and crushed her groceries. That story will be released in full within the hour. Phones exploded with activity. Everyone's searching. Finding the blogger's posts. Finding the cryptic hints. Finding the beginning of the story that was ending here.
Now.
At an altar meant for vows becoming the scene of arrest. Take them, Commissioner Adewale ordered. His voice is final. Absolute. The officers moved, dragging Victor and Stephanie toward the doors. Toward the police vehicles waiting outside. Toward jail cells that would be their home for decades. Stephanie started screaming again. This is a setup. He forced me. I'm a victim. Victor made me do everything. I have proof. I have recordings. Victor's head snapped toward her. His eyes are wide.
Betrayed.
Even now, even here, she was throwing him under the bus, using her insurance to save herself. You said you loved me, he choked out. You said we were partners. Stephanie's laugh was vicious.
Sharp.
All pretense gone. You stupid, stupid man. I never loved you. I used you. Just like I used the 3 idiots before you. Just like I would have destroyed you after bleeding you dry. Victor's face crumbled. The final betrayal. The ultimate knife. He'd destroyed his marriage. Murdered his child. Poisoned his wife. All for a woman who'd been playing him from day one. The officers pulled them apart. Dragged them towards separate vehicles. Their screaming fading as the doors closed behind them. The ballroom remained frozen. 300 people were unable to process what they'd just witnessed. The fairy tale wedding transformed into a nightmare. Into a morality play. Into a warning about what happens when greed masquerades as love. Phones continued recording. The footage is already going viral. Already spreading across Nigeria. Across Africa. Across the world. Within minutes, hashtag Justice for Grace exploded. Thousands of posts. Tens of thousands. The blogger Mrs. Florence had released the full story. Every detail. The market assault. The poisoning. The hidden investigation. The dead wives in other states. Everything. Nigeria's internet erupted. Outrage. Support. Demands for maximum sentences. Prayers for grace. Celebrations of justice. The story resonated because everyone knew Victor. Everyone knew Stephanie. Everyone had witnessed or experienced or survived some version of this betrayal. The grand imperial ballroom slowly emptied. Guests leaving in stunned silence. The wedding that should have been a celebration became the most talked about event in Lagos for entirely different reasons. The white roses wilted in their expensive vases. The cake sat uncut. The champagne remained unopened.